Welcome to Leading Through Change, the podcast for purpose-driven leaders who know there's a better way to navigate crisis, complexity, change, and uncertainty. I'm your host, Melissa Agnes, founder of Crisis Ready Institute, creator of the Crisis Ready certification, and passionate believer that the way that we've been taught to lead no longer serves us. In fact, it often creates more harm, more disconnection, and more fear, and it's time to change that. If you're feeling called to lead differently, not from control, but from connection, not through reaction, but through aligned action, then you are in the right place, and I am so glad you're here. Let's dive into this week's episode, which is how to create safety amidst chaos and uncertainty. I'm going to start with stating something, which is one's level of transformation is directly linked to their level of safety. What does this mean, right? Why is this important? One's level of transformation is directly linked to their level of safety. What am I talking about here? When you're leading through change, you are asking people to transform. Change equals evolution and transformation, right? But if they don't feel safe, that transformation can't happen because one's level of transformation is directly linked to their level of safety. So if we're talking about change creates fear. We've talked about all of this, okay? Change creates fear in the system because the ego doesn't like uncertainty or new, and change is new. Fear creates resistance because the ego is trying to keep you safe and keep you still, keep you in place because it knows that it can keep you alive right here. And resistance blocks transformation. Resistance gets in the way, even when the change or the transformation is positive. Safety dissolves that resistance. Safety resolves that resistance. This means that you, as a leader, if you can create the type of safety that we're going to talk about today, then you will be extremely, exponentially successful when leading through change, when leading through chaos, when leading through uncertainty, when leading through crisis. So it is, you know this, at Crisis Ready Institute, and through our certification, we certify visionary crisis leaders or visionary leaders. And it is the visionary leader's role to create this type of safety. However, you can only create as much safety for others as you feel within your own system. And while ultimately everybody is responsible for their own inner safety, the truth is that the majority of people have never been taught how to do this. People have not been taught how to regulate their own nervous system. The simple things that we have talked about in the last 5 weeks as being episode 5 of Leading Through Change are so profound and such things that you can't really find anywhere. There's no leadership program other than certification at Crisis Ready Institute that actually goes into the depths of these really, really, really intrinsic and important and inherent aspects of true leadership. So people haven't been taught how to regulate their own nervous system. People haven't been taught how to find answers when everything feels uncertain. We talked a little bit about that 2 weeks ago. They haven't been taught how to create inner stability when their external world is completely chaotic. And in times of change and crisis and uncertainty, those are facts. And it's nobody's fault. That's one of the things that I kind of realized. I used to blame I used to kind of ask myself, who can I blame for this, right? Who got it so wrong? But in reality, when we look at what fear is, when we look at how fear is created and how the ego is designed to keep us safe, when we look at all that and we look at the evolution of our species, we as human beings have spent more time in survival mode over the history of our existence than we have in creation mode. So it makes sense. It's nobody's fault. It's evolution. It makes sense that nobody's been taught all of this. However, it is critical. It's extremely critical. And it also means that there's tremendous opportunity for you because this is where true leaders rise. So while others are looking for someone to blame or how to deflect or someone to save them in moments of change or chaos or crisis, visionary leaders become that safe harbor that allows transformation, change, growth, and evolution to actually happen. And this is so core and so critical and is what distinguishes the title holder versus an actual leader, remembering that leadership isn't about rank, it's not about title, it's about impact. And this is what our topic of this episode today is on leading through change. So Clementina wrote, because the transformation is a mental path for doing something so disruptive that brings to safety. Yeah. And there's 4 different types of safety that we're going to talk about today that is your responsibility as the visionary leader, somebody who's leading through change, to actually be able to master. And we're going to do that today. So to begin, what am I even talking about when I'm talking about fostering safety? What does that mean? At Crisis Ready Institute, I felt long and hard about how to define this in the context of the way that we talk about it. Fostering a safe space is actively creating an environment where people feel secure enough to be vulnerable, secure enough to think freely, secure enough to feel fully, and secure enough to trust your presence. That is what we were talking about when we were talking about fostering safety. And in other words, like, this is really a felt experience, right? So for example, when you are fostering these 4 levels of safety that we're going to talk about today, others sense that they can be real in this environment or in this situation or in this moment or with you as the leader. They kind of have this narrative within themselves that, even if it's unconscious, that says, this person, you, the leader, can handle whatever I'm feeling. They would say to themselves, I don't have to protect the situation or the leader from my truth, right? There's so much safety and belonging in that. And ultimately, they're telling themselves that you, the leader, are strong enough to be with them being those you are leading through change, chaos, crisis. You're strong enough to be with them in this present moment, no matter how challenging it is, how uncertain it is, how scared you might even feel. You are strong enough. What it isn't about fixing everything in the moment, right? When somebody comes to you, and we know this, when somebody comes to you and says, I need to talk to you about something, or I want to share something, or they're vulnerable with you, and you go into fix-it mode, that's not what they're looking for. They're just looking to be witnessed in that particular moment. Fix-it mode comes after, or it comes behind the scene when you're leading through change. But in the moment, giving pure, loving, compassionate presence to someone so that they can feel safe is not about fixing everything in the moment. It's also not about having all the answers. And this is when we look at like crisis comms, right? I've been in crisis comms for forever. When we look at crisis comms, there's this misconception that people think that they have to have all the answers right away, but that's impossible. So it's not about having all the answers. It's about having presence and creating safety with your presence so that people go, okay, there's uncertainty here and I'm safe with this leader. I can trust this leader. I am willing to follow this leader. This leader is credible. This leader's got me. It's not about eliminating discomfort or uncertainty. Eliminating discomfort usually comes from a dysregulated nervous system that's scared of the discomfort itself. So you try to eliminate it. Nuh-uh. It's not about controlling, period, outcomes or managing perceptions. And it is most certainly not about making it about you. Fostering a safe space means becoming the leader others instinctively trust to handle whatever arises. Whatever arises, that's a big statement. And as I mentioned, There are 4 different types of safety that, as the leader who's going to lead through change, the visionary leader, you have to master. You have to consciously aware of, and you have to master in order to truly, truly be successful in the level of success that means that you are making the world a better place, that you are creating and leading through meaningful change. The 4 levels of safety include physical, psychological, emotional, and energetic. And I'm going to dive into all 4 of these a little bit right now. And then, as always, we're going to do a somatic practice, because levels of safety, your level of safety starts from within, right? And we can only create safety, the level of safety for others that we feel within ourselves. So it is essential as a practice. Okay. If you guys have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comments section on LinkedIn, and I will see them and I will answer them. All right. Physical safety. This is like the foundation, right? I think this is the one that people are the most aware of, are most conscious about, and usually the one, hopefully, that gets hit the most, because it's tangible, because it's actionable, because it's environmental. It's the sensory cues that signal you are safe here, right? Physically safe here. And then all the other levels of safety too, but I think most people are just conscious of the physical safety aspect. So in this context, it's about the environment itself. Is it accessible? Is it actually free of danger and risk? Is it inclusive? Is it non-threatening in any kind of way? Physically, emotionally, intellectually, psychologically, I should say. Do people know where to go, what to expect, and what's being asked of them, right? There's clarity. There is safety in information. When there's clarity, people can feel safe. And are there boundaries that are being honored? Are people's autonomy being respected? What's the body language or tone awareness, right? So it's being able as a leader to foster physical safety means that you're noticing the small but powerful signals. So like, for example, one, the obvious is the obvious, right? Are we hosting a meeting in a burning building? That's the obvious. But as the leader, are you present and attuned to the states of everybody else in the room? Are people getting agitated? Are they starting to get maybe a little bit aggressive? Right? Just in body language, in tone, in mannerism, that would create non-safety or the feeling of non-safety to others. So it's about ensuring that nothing in the space unintentionally communicates danger, exclusion, or disregard. And I think it's pretty obvious why this one matters. It's the most visible layer of safety. Physical safety, what we can see and feel, right, with our 5 senses, not our 6th sense, are the most obvious. It's the most visible layer of safety, and often the first layer of safety that must be established in order for the other layers of safety to unfold. So this one's pretty obvious. Now let's go to the less obvious. All right, next up, we have psychological safety. So psychological safety is rooted in perception and trust. What does that mean for you as a leader? Perception and trust, right? It's about having and feeling the freedom of thought, expression, and difference. So it's the sense that a person can show up fully as they are with their ideas, with their questions, with their beliefs, and with their truths, without fear of being diminished, judged, excluded, punished, or anything else, right? So this includes the safety to speak an unpopular truth. This includes the safety to challenge status quo or to diverge from the dominant leadership voice. So, in other words, as the leader, this one is really important. Keep your ego in check. What do I mean by this? If somebody rises up and challenges or questions your decision-making, this is a question for you for real, does that usually trigger your self-protection and self-defense mechanisms? So does your ego go, this feels unsafe to me, They're challenging me. That must mean, and then, whatever the subcontext of why your ego would be triggered in the first place, right? We know what ego means in the context of what we're talking about, your self-identity. If somebody cannot feel safe enough, psychologically safe enough to challenge you, to ask a question, to bring their feelings, to bring what they're thinking to the table, then you are not doing your job at creating psychological safety. And this actually is more challenging than I think that we consciously realize, right? Like, it is so normal for you as a leader. You're leading through change. It's already taking so much strength and courage and self-regulation, and somebody comes up and challenges you or questions you. Instinctively, that's going to likely trigger a self-protection mechanism. But what does self-protection in that way do? It creates disconnection. What is the goal of leading through change? It's connection. So it's counterproductive. So you as the leader, when I say you have to keep your ego in check, it means that you have to be grounded enough in yourself, in your knowing, in your vision, and in your own levels of safety so that when somebody does question you, you can lean into that. Period. It's very challenging to do. I know this. And it's also one of the most empowering things that you can do. So why this matters? Perceived threat creates the same fear response in the brain as physical threat. Psychological safety is as important as physical safety. And we, in our brains, when we perceive a threat in our minds that isn't necessarily like that burning fire that's right in front of us, it creates the same fear response in our brain as a physical threat would. So it is equally as real. And it will create all of the same negative consequences in terms of trust of the leader, right? Connection, resonance. And on the flip side of that, when you create psychological safety, when you check your ego and you're able to have those uncomfortable conversations that might challenge your authority or your decision-making, this creates space for innovation, real problem solving during moments of change, challenge, and uncertainty. We talked about this a few weeks ago, we know that when we're in fear, we're in survival mode, and we can't be in survival mode and creation mode at the same time. So if people are scared to come to you with something or to be themselves around you, they're not going to be in creation mode, which means you're not going to have optimal anything. Decision-making, problem-solving, creativity, leading from possibility. We'll do another episode on that. So the question to you on this one is, when someone brings concerning news or challenges your direction or your decision-making or whatever it might be, how do you receive it? I know that personally, sometimes I don't receive it so well, especially in my home life. But having the awareness and then practicing receiving it, reception, without closing off, without getting self-protective or self-defensive. Extremely critical leadership skill. Okay, any questions or comments, please post them. The third state of safety is emotional. So this one is relational and attuned. What you are doing is you are giving people permission to feel fully without judgment, obviously. I want to say obviously. And without it triggering, again, that disconnection from you. So it means that people know the psychological part. They know that they won't be shamed or gaslit or pathologized for having an emotional response, whether grief, anger, fear, vulnerability, etc., right? They can come with the bigness of their emotions, and you are strong and courageous enough to hold space for that, safe space for that. That is essentially what we're talking about is cognitive empathy. So there's affective empathy and there's cognitive empathy. Affective empathy is when you lose yourself in somebody else's feelings and you can't lead. Cognitive empathy is when you are strong and brave enough, courageous enough to step into the energy of the emotion with people, with a person, because emotion is energy in motion, right? So you step into that energy with them and you feel with, you hold safe space for, and you don't lose yourself. So you know where they end and where you begin, but you're still in it with them. Again, this is a skill that some people have naturally, and some people have created so many self-protective mechanisms that it takes work to find again. But we're all empathetic. Last week, we talked about connection. We looked at how the brain is wired and how subatomical particles are what we're made of and what that means in terms of our level of connection and our truth of connection, right? So we all have this, but it's a matter of cultivating the courage and stretching the muscle. So this is developing the capacity to hold intensity without flinching, staying present without rescuing, right? Just presence. And helping others move through their emotion without shutting it down or making it about you. This isn't about avoiding or suppressing or bypassing. It's about holding loving awareness so that people can feel fully, so that they can process through that energy and those emotions, or the energy of those emotions, and get to the other side. And then on that other side, there's connection with you. There's resonance, there's trust, there's credibility. There's your leadership amplified. And I mean, this matters for so many reasons and on so many levels. What we know at Crisis Ready Institute in our crisis communication course, we teach that emotion clouds judgment, right? You cannot beat emotion with logic is one of the Crisis Ready rules. So people can't think clearly until they feel heard and seen. That's when our Crisis Ready formula of responding to high stakes emotion or amplifying emotion, you have to first validate the emotions and then relate to what matters before you can start talking about the logic and bring in the proof. This is what we're talking about with regards to the validate and relate piece, holding space for so that people can feel safe in their emotions in your presence. Again, great courage and true leadership. I'm telling you, this is it's the game changers. And it's the skills that aren't taught. And so therefore it scares the leader themselves oftentimes to even witness emotion, never mind to hold space for it. And we have to change that. Okay. And then lastly, energetic safety. This is definitely one that nobody talks about. And this is one that if you've watched any of the previous episodes of this show, then you know how potent and powerful and what a super skill this is when it comes to leading through change. So energetic safety is sensed and not spoken. Obviously, it's energetic, right? It's the coherence at the level beneath words. So it's how people feel from you versus what you might say. And I'm not talking about looking at your body language or your micro expressions. I am literally talking about your energetic presence. We know that we have a physical body and an energetic body. Our energetic body is so powerful and so potent. And we looked at that in episode 2. Something about coherence and chaos. It was called. People feel your energetic safety before they actually understand it. So if they feel it, they don't actually necessarily have to put words to it. Their nervous system starts to regulate because your nervous system regulates other nervous systems when your nervous system is in coherence. So it's the sense that your presence is congruent, is grounded and clean. It is free from manipulative undertones. It is free from hidden agendas. It is free from unresolved emotional charge. That doesn't mean that you don't have unresolved emotions. It means that you aren't charged with them. You're not coming into a situation in chaos. You are regulated before you go in to the room to lead through the change. When your energy is clean, and that's what I mean by clean, people become relaxed. When your energy is misaligned, people brace themselves, people tighten up, even if your words are right. You can have the best speech ever written. It will go down in like speech history. And if your energetics aren't aligned, if your presence isn't aligned and on point and in coherence, those words don't matter. It'll go down in the worst speech ever in history. So as a leader, this requires continuous self-attunement, right? So checking in with yourself. Where am I right now? We talked about fear in episode 1. That episode is called Fear Isn't the Problem, Unawareness Is. And we talked about how fear jumps to the forefront of our nervous system, of our being, oftentimes before we even realize that we're in a state of fear. So the importance here is getting to be familiar with the signature of fear in your body. So when you are self-attuned, you're constantly checking in to your body, not your mind, right? And you're going, okay, what's present here with me? What am I feeling right now? And you're cleaning that up so that you can hold safe space for others. This requires radical honesty about your own state. You can't be afraid to name your own emotions. You can't be afraid to name what is. How many leaders, there's a lot, who are afraid to speak these types of truths. And I'm not talking about getting out on stage and speaking it to the world. I'm talking about self-addressing it so that you can clean your charge, your energy, and get into coherence so that you can lead effectively. And then the discipline to clean your field before holding space for others. What does this mean? It means if you need to take a few moments to just breathe, breathe. We know that fear only exists in the analytical mind and the structured mind. It doesn't exist in the body. We also know, this is all past episodes, we also know that we have 3 intelligence centers and that the brain intelligence center is the least wise of the 3. The other 2 are the heart and the gut. So we have to get out of our mind and into our body to get into coherence, to gain clarity, to gain vision, and to lead from that place. And that is more potent than any words you could ever speak. I promise you. I have so much experience in this. So energetic safety is not about being nice, right? It's about being true, being steady, and being aligned enough for others to feel what's real so that they can soften into their own truth within your presence. Again, it's about creating safety. So your nervous system regulation directly impacts others' ability to regulate. I've talked about this. I've given the science of it and I've given the resources. So if you're interested in learning more about that and you weren't with us for those conversations, go back to previous episodes. Your nervous system directly influences the nervous systems of those that you are leading. Do you want to be a frantic or do you want to be a calm, safe space so that they can get safe and that you can lead them through the transformation, right? Change is transformation. When you walk into a room and everyone is panicked and you're in coherence, you actually begin to help to regulate their nervous system, which means that on an unconscious level, they start to feel safe and they know it's coming from you. They can feel it. This is a felt sense, and it happens before the brain catches up. So, those are the 4 levels of safety. People will only be as vulnerable with you as their system permits. And you can help their system lean into safety by fostering physical, psychological, emotional, and energetic safety. And it's not which one do I want to foster. It is all 4. And most leaders miss the mark, which is why we're talking about it. Lastly, before we go into our somatic practice and really integrate all of this, feel it in our system so that we can be it, right? That is what embodiment is. People will only be as vulnerable and therefore transformable as their system permits them to be. And you can only create as much safety for others as you feel within yourself. So those 4 levels of safety, physical, psychological, emotional, and energetic, you have to feel all of those levels of safety within yourself in order to be your most potent, most powerful, most transformational, and trustworthy leader. So this means that your responsibility is first and foremost to your own energetic state. Put your oxygen mask on before you put on somebody else's, right? Same concept. All right, Clementina, you said, how do I feel when someone comes and judges me? Honestly, it depends on who it's coming from. Sorry for No, you're good. Yeah, absolutely. And also, one of my favorite things that I love to tell myself is what they think about me is not my business, right? Because just kind of sidebar, everything in our external world is a reflection of what's in our internal world, what's going on in the inside. So if I say something that triggers somebody else, that activates an emotional reaction, like a low frequency emotional reaction, I can check with myself and go, okay, was I coming from a place of compassion? Was I coming from a place, what was my intention? What was my ego? What was my energetic state? Okay, everything was aligned. Then that's not mine, right? It's not our business what other people think of us. It's kind of that. However, when you're leading through change, yes, it's really important for that to not destabilize you. So I can tell myself that's not mine. And if I'm leading this person through change or through crisis and I know that they're activated and I know what that is, then I can say that's not mine. I'm cleaning my own energy. I'm stable in me. How can I step into the fear and the resistance that this person is feeling to bring these 4 levels of safety so that they can relax and they can trust and maybe they can transform, they can evolve, they can feel better, they can feel safer. We can be more connected, right? And then, so this is like when you said your comment, Clementina, this is, yes, circumstantial, right? If you're at home and somebody you're walking on the street and a stranger says something or a friend says something, is very different from when you're leading through change. But I do want to make those same those two comments because it's so relevant. If anybody has any questions about that, if that was unclear in any way, let me know. Okay, now let's get to the second piece of this program, which is the somatic practice. I already said it, and I'm going to say it a little bit more until this program really gets, has more episodes underway and people are more familiar. But it's not enough to just learn something cognitively. That's just the first layer. And our minds, because this is where fear lives, will find every reason to not move into something that's uncomfortable. And when something is new, it's uncomfortable. So what I'm talking about could be makes sense to you. You might be sitting here listening to it or watching it going like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. But it making sense and you strengthening this muscle and this skill, 2 completely different things because of because of so many things, but because of our genetics, because of our history in terms of our species history, and because having the courage to create this safety, again, is only as deep as your own level of safety. So you have to do the work to strengthen your own level of safety in all 4 areas. And that is not done by thinking about it. That is done by experiencing it and being present with it and noticing it without judgment. So that's what we're going to do now. We are going to do halo active breath pattern. So that is in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just that is just calming. And there's going to be 3 purposes for this experience, okay? Actually 4, because 1, it feels good. And there's a reason why these calls or this program, this live is at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday, is because I think it's a really great way to start the day doing this experience. So that's 1 purpose. The other 2 purposes, the other 3 purposes, we're only We can only create safety for others to the depths of what we feel safe within ourselves. So the first piece is finding safety within yourself, exploring that, never with judgment, okay? Getting into your body and finding where you might feel a little bit unsafe or, compressed or have restriction, right? Have the contracted. And then feeling into where you can find safety and letting that feel good. Letting that feel good to expand your capacity for it. The second piece from there, I'm going to invite you to expand, to focus on your heart center and expand the electromagnetic field of your heart, which will happen by breathing and focusing on that area, awareness. And to imagine it expanding beyond you. So that's it. We're just going to practice that. And then the third piece is I'm going to invite you to imagine what this could feel like when you walk into a room that you have to lead. A room that could be anything. There's an uncomfortable, courageous conversation that needs to take place, or it's a catastrophic crisis that you need to lead through. Doesn't matter. But just envisioning who you are as the leader who can foster these levels of safety. Okay, so that's the journey that we're about to go on. For those of you who are safe to do so, meaning you're not driving, you're not walking across the street, you're not doing a million things at once, take the time just for you. Let's get settled into our seats, turn off distractions, closing down our eyes. And let's just take a deep breath just to get grounded. And I invite you to feel the seat below you and notice the room around you, knowing that you are in a safe environment. You are free to lean into your seat. You are free to sink into the sturdiness of the ground beneath you because it's got you. And for the next few moments, you are safe to just be and to gift yourself this presence. Calling back all energy and attention from all different times and spaces and coming into the present moment. And let's begin with some halo-active breathing. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Feeling into your body. Let's do a body scan. Let's go from the top of your head, just bringing awareness, scanning through your eyes, your cheeks, your mouth, your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, your chest, your belly, your back, your seat bones, your legs, your ankles, your feet, just scanning through your body, noticing if there's any tension anywhere as you continue to breathe with intentionality. And if you find some tension, we don't need to wonder where it comes from. We just need to give it some breath for this moment. Just breathe into that space of tension. Practice giving it loving awareness. Yes, even to your own body. What happens when you just witness it and breathe into it. As you connect with your body, I invite you to ask yourself how safe you feel right now. There's no wrong answer. There's only truth. There is just what is. How safe do you feel? Do you feel safe to feel? Do you feel safe to be? And is there an area in your body that feels safe, maybe safer? If so, invitation to breathe into that space and sink into that space. Let it feel good. Safer that you can feel in your body, the more powerful you are, the more influential you are, the more trustworthy you are, because safety is real and is trustworthy. You can't fake this type of safety. And other people's nervous systems crave it. So if you can find your safety within your body and memorize what that feels like, then you know that you can access it anytime you want because it is yours. It is your birthright. It is your divine right. And nobody can take this away from you. This is yours. Once this begins to feel good, feel safe, the invitation to bring your awareness to your heart center. It helps to put your hand on your heart center, just to create that kind of physical awareness. And as you breathe in and out, in through your nose, out through your mouth, imagine that breath flowing in and out of this heart space. Your heart's electromagnetic field expands feet beyond your body. Not only does it grant you access to information, wisdom that you can't otherwise access to this extent, not without going and doing research, but it also emits a charge that when you amplify this space, when you're in coherence, others feel safe within your presence. Picturing that breath going in and out of your heart, and every time you breathe in safety. Every time you breathe out, you amplify the charge. You send that safety outwards. Let's take a few moments right here. more you intensify that breath in and out, the more potency and power, the more safety you can cultivate for yourself, and the more safety you can foster for others. And when this feels good, next invitation is to imagine a leadership moment that maybe you're facing, that you might face. Maybe it's with your team, maybe it's with your community, maybe it's with your family. And imagine walking into that room where people are waiting for you and they're feeling dysregulated or they're feeling fear because there's an uncertainty of the moment. And you walk in with this presence. As you breathe in and out of your heart space, continuing to amplify your heart's electromagnetic field, I invite you to imagine, to feel into the leader that you are who walks in coherence and who walks in knowing that you are able, capable, and skilled at fostering all 4 levels of safety for the people that you are about to lead through the moment of change. How good does it feel to be that leader? How empowered do you feel? How proud of yourself do you feel? How honored do you feel? See yourself in that presence and feel yourself as that presence. The world needs more leaders like this. There's a lot of change happening right now. There's a lot of chaos. And you could be that leader. Right now, just by doing this practice, you are becoming more and more of that leader. That is you. That is yours. Taking a moment of gratitude, knowing where you're going, who you're becoming, the legacy that you get to leave behind as a result. Coming back to your heart, coming back to your body. Coming back to the present moment. How do you feel? How did that feel for you? How did finding safety in your body feel for you? Maybe it was really easy and maybe it wasn't, and that's okay. How did imagining, seeing, it's not just imagining, but visualizing yourself as that leader feel in your body, in your heart? Feel free to share. I always want to hear. I truly do. Whether you're watching this live or you're listening to it and you want to send me a DM or send me a comment or an email, I always want to hear. Your level of transformation is directly linked to your level of inner safety. And as a leader, you help create the conditions for others to feel safe enough to transform as you lead them through change, through chaos, and through uncertainty. Fostering a safe space means actively creating an environment where people feel secure enough to be vulnerable, to think freely, to feel fully, and to trust your presence. The 4 types of safety: physical, psychological, emotional, and energetic are your responsibility, and it requires all 4, mastery of all 4, to truly rise and be the most potent, the most powerful, the most capable, the most transformative leader that you can possibly be. In moments when others are blaming or deflecting or looking to who's going to save them, you get to become that safe harbor that allows for real transformation to happen. Evolution, connection, leading towards something better for all. And in this drop-in practice today, hopefully you felt what it's like to be regulated, right? Get into your body, to just breathe through your heart, get into regulation. And that is what it feels like. That what you felt, you can feel when everything is chaotic. You can be the calm in the storm because it is your natural state of being when you know how to access it. And it is always available to you and through you. So if you want to practice this, there's 2 things that I'll leave you with in terms of every week I want to give you some kind of actionable implementation so that you truly can choose to become these things. The first is attune to your levels of safety. Where do you feel fully safe in all 4 areas? Where do you not necessarily? Where, when, how do you not necessarily feel safe in one or more of the 4 areas? And when you feel a sense of dysregulation, which means non-safety, right? Feeling unsafe in some way, my invitation to you is not to judge it, not to criticize it, and not to go, oh, I should be X instead of Y. My invitation to you is to examine it and, like you would do for someone else, ask yourself, ask that part of you what it needs. And listen and begin fostering safety for yourself. This is so powerful in so many ways, in areas of life, period. And it directly translates into hard skills that nobody talks about for leadership. And then the second piece of the homework is to have this awareness and practice fostering safety for others. Physical. How does your presence and environment signal safety, right? In any given moment. Just be attuned to it. You're walking into a meeting. You know that people feel safe. Why is that? Psychologically, are people free to think and express differently around you? Is your ego in check? In the way that I talked about it earlier. Emotionally, can people feel their feelings around you without judgment? Are you strong enough and courageous enough to hold loving, compassionate space with cognitive empathy when people are feeling or moving through emotions? And energetically, is your nervous system regulated enough to actively help others regulate theirs? When what you've learned and experienced today is that shift from chaos to calm, from fear to safety within yourself, amplifying, like leveling up. We revert to default in times of crisis, so level up constantly, and within others. And this is just the beginning. So the work that we do inside the Crisis Ready certification goes so much deeper into these foundations. And here's what I know. The leaders who are going to thrive in the years ahead aren't the ones who have all the answers, nor pretend to, in moments of change, crisis, chaos, or uncertainty. They're the ones who can transform resistance into resonance. They're the ones who can transform fear into connection by creating safety, by having a strong alignment and groundedness in their vision, and being able to help people see the vision and lean into the change that's required to accomplish, to achieve, to bring about that vision. The certification isn't just about learning techniques. It's about becoming the kind of leader whose presence alone shifts a room. It's about developing the inner capacity to hold space for anything while staying connected to your vision of what is possible. And in the certification, we teach you that just because things are doesn't mean they have to be, and you have the power to create meaningful change. What that means from a quantum physics standpoint, what that means from a psychological standpoint, what that means from an energetic standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, and how to actually create meaningful change, even if it hasn't historically been the truth or hasn't been the real, right? Been reality. Our next cohort begins this month. So if there's anything about this that is speaking to you, and this is a body knowing, I have so many students who come in, they're like, I'm not too sure why I'm here, but I know I'm supposed to be. And by the end of the 6-month transformation, they're like, oh my God, they're completely different people in such an incredible way. So if there's any part of you that is going, this is interesting, or I want to learn more, or something about this feels good and feels right, I'm putting in the chat, I just put a link to schedule a discovery call. If you feel called to this, I want to speak with you. I will share about the Crisis Ready certification. I'll let you know just everything, and we'll discuss the transformation that you will go through. Don't wait for the perfect moment or until you feel ready, because the world needs leaders who can create safety in chaos now, because everything is very chaotic. And why shouldn't that leader be you? You can learn more at crisisreadyinstitute.com. You can click the link that I just shared and that'll be available at the bottom of the show notes of this episode to directly book a discovery call with me. It's free. Let's just chat. And come back and join me every week right here, where we will tackle another aspect of embodied visionary leadership together. Follow me on LinkedIn, so click the bell so that you don't miss a live episode. Put it in your calendar, 8 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday mornings, or subscribe to wherever you receive or listen to your podcasts, because the recordings become those podcasts. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for investing in yourself. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, stay connected.